So, have you ever just stopped and wondered if the world you see is the real world? It's a huge question, and it's one the philosopher Bertrand Russell kind of forces us to ask. Today, we're going to take a journey to see if what our own eyes and our own hands are telling us can actually be trusted. And this is the question that kicks the whole thing off. At first, it seems kind of simple, right? But when you really dig into it, it can start to unravel pretty much everything you take for granted. Think of this question as the first clue in a detective story about reality itself. So what do you think? Is there anything you're absolutely 100% certain about? To tackle a massive question like that, we're not going to start by looking at something complicated like distant galaxies or quantum physics. Nope. We're going to start with something much more ordinary. Something you might even have right in front of you. A simple table. Okay, let's put this table on trial. It seems straightforward enough. It's solid, it's dependable. It's just a table. But as we're about to find out, the moment you put common sense under the microscope, things get really strange, really fast. So, our first piece of evidence, the table's color. You look at it, and your brain immediately goes, okay, that's brown. Easy. Case closed, right? Well, what happens if we look just a little bit closer? I mean, think about that color, brown. Is the table really one single uniform color? Because parts of it are catching the light and they look almost bright white. Other parts, way back in the shadow, are nearly black. If you just move your head an inch, the light shifts, and all those colors change with it. And get this, if someone was sitting right across from you, they'd be seeing a completely different pattern of light and shadow. So what is the table's real color? Is there one? Okay, so color is unreliable, a little shifty. But what about touch? I mean, you run your hand across the surface, it feels smooth. That seems pretty certain, doesn't it? But, is that the whole story? Well, this is where science comes in and just throws a wrench in the whole thing. To our fingertips, yeah, it feels perfectly smooth. But if we were to zoom way in with a microscope, that exact same surface would look like a rugged mountain range, just full of little hills and valleys. So which one is it? Is it smooth or is it rough? Our senses are telling us one thing, but our tools are telling us something completely different. All right, one last test for our poor table here. Let's talk about its shape. We all know it's a rectangle, right? 4 sides, 4 perfect right angles. It's one of the first shapes we learn as kids. But here's the question. Have you ever actually seen that perfect rectangle? Just think about it for a second. Unless you are literally floating directly over the dead center of the table, looking straight down, perspective changes everything. The corners that are closer to you look wider than 90 degrees, and the corners farther away look way narrower. What you're actually seeing are 2 acute angles and 2 obtuse angles. We assume that it's a rectangle, we infer it, but what we actually see from our point of view is something else entirely. So our simple, honest table it's completely failed the test. Its color, its texture, its shape, they're all shifty and uncertain depending on how you look at them. So if what our senses are giving us isn't the real table, then what in the world are we experiencing? To answer that, Russell gives us 2 really important concepts. Russell calls these raw experiences sense data. You can think of them as the direct, unfiltered bits of information that are hitting your brain. That specific patch of brownness you see, the feeling of coolness on your fingertips, the weird angles you see from your chair. The key thing here is that these aren't the table itself. They're just the clues, not the suspect. The second idea is sensation. Now, this isn't the data itself, but the act of your mind noticing it. So if sense data is like an email arriving in your inbox, sensation is the act of you opening and reading that email. That patch of brown is the sense data. Your seeing of the brown patch is the sensation. It's a small difference in words, but it's a huge difference in meaning. So let's put it all together. Sense data is the what you experience, the color, the feeling. Sensation is the how, the actual act of seeing or feeling it. And here is the most important part, the real kicker. You are only ever directly aware of the sense data happening inside your own mind. You are never, ever in direct contact with the physical thing out there that might be causing it. This brings us right to the heart of the whole problem, the huge split between appearance and reality. Appearance is the world inside your head, that shifting private movie that's made up of all your personal sense data. Reality, well, that's the thing that exists out there, the actual physical table. It's public, it's independent of you, and crucially, you can only guess that it's there. You never, ever experience it directly. And this idea, this massive gap between what appears to be true and what is real, it doesn't just apply to our table. It applies to everything. And once you really see that gap, it leads to some truly haunting questions.
This is the first big one. I mean, seriously, if all we ever have access to are our own private sense data, the colors and shapes and textures in our own minds, how can we be absolutely certain there's a real physical table out there causing all of it?
And okay, let's say we take a leap of faith. Let's just assume there is a real table out there. Then what could it possibly be like? We've already figured out it doesn't have one single color or one texture or even a fixed rectangular shape that we can see. So what is this mysterious thing in itself that exists completely beyond our senses? Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is a fun little thought experiment, but why does any of this actually matter? Well, it matters because this simple investigation of a table tells us something incredibly profound about the very nature of how we connect to the world around us. What this whole thing reveals is a fundamental gap, you could call it a veil, between our minds and the physical world. Every conversation we have, every book we read, every scientific experiment we run is really an attempt to bridge that gap. We're all constantly trying to line up our private, subjective experiences to build some kind of shared, objective reality. And that is the central challenge of all knowledge. And so, this is where we're left. If everything you experience, every sight, every sound, every touch is just a sign, just a clue delivered to you by your senses, what is the reality they're all pointing towards? That is the fundamental question. And answering it, well, that's the great journey of both philosophy and science. Thanks for joining the investigation.